Hey guys, it's Jeremy here. We're going to do another lap guide video. Today we're at Laguna Seca Raceway, Monterey, California. We're driving the Chevrolet Corvette Z06 GT3R. This track's pretty special to me. I basically grew up here. I spent a lot of time here going to the IndyCar races as a kid. So I'm very familiar with it. I've been lucky enough to drive it a couple times in real life. And so I'm going to do my best to point you guys around here, try and give you some tips and tricks I picked up over the years. We're going to run this the same format we did with the previous lap guide video. We're just going to run the hot lap at speed. I'll let you guys get an eye for it, and then I'll break it down and talk you through it. A lot of you guys are familiar with Laguna Seca. It's been in almost every single video game I've played as far as racing games go since I was a little kid. It's a very popular track in the digital world. It's also a really popular track in real life. IMSA, MotoGP, IndyCar, a bunch of different GT series come here, the touring car series. It's a really, really popular track. And unfortunately, the local residents are doing everything they can to try and shut it down. Anyways, without further ado, let's get on with it. And across the line. As you can see, we're able to pull off a 120.071. It's a pretty quick lap, if I do say so myself. I think it was like the 5th quickest in the vet around here, so it's not too shabby. Like I said, I'm really familiar with this track. I basically grew up around here. I came here every single year growing up, like clockwork, basically. It's a really fun track to drive, especially in these GT cars. They hug the road really well. They've got a lot of aero cranked on. This last section coming down through here to set up the lap is so much fun. This track is set up in this kind of a natural bowl. It used to be a lake. The lake's dried out, and so it's like a dry lake bed kind of situation. There's still a little lagoon that's in the middle of the track. But this area all kind of used to be underwater way back in the day. And these hills benefit from that mindset of like following the flow of water. You kind of want to trace the road the way that the water would flow down the hill. And so we'll get into this. I'll break down this section once we get to it later on in the lap. Coming through here, you want to make sure that you can maximize this little short chute. You can carry a lot of speed through that turn 10 into 9 here, or into 11 here. You want to get the car as far as you can to the right hand side without touching your wheels off into the dirt. Under braking, it really unsettles the car. The back end wants to come around. So you want to get the right side tires pretty much up on this curb. You can stay to the inside of the curb just for safety's sake. Hard on the brakes here. This corner is like a 60-degree left-hand corner. It's really tight. The slower series cars like the Miatas and stuff like that will usually hit this turn almost a little sideways, and like drift across the apex to maximize their run onto the straightaway to carry speed. We don't really need to do that in the GT cars, but you still can chop the apex quite a bit to be able to really round off the corner and straighten the car up to get a run onto the straight. We're keeping it as far to the right hand side as we can here until we get the car slowed down as much as we want. And then we're turning in, we're aiming for that red curb. Laguna Seca's got a bunch of these bright red curbs at the apex points, which are just beautiful. You can go to the inside or outside of this curb. Doesn't really make too much of a difference. You won't pick up an off track as long as you don't get too greedy on the inside. And then on the exit here, we're looking to line the car up on this green runoff patch. It's really grippy, actually. It's like AstroTurf, but it's grippy AstroTurf for whatever reason. All the series in real life use it as well as like a power-on kind of a launch ramp to get you set up down this front straightaway. And so you can see the steering opens up pretty early. I powered on really soon coming through that corner to try and maximize my run onto the straight, and the car started to get a little sideways. It's not the end of the world as long as you're able to control it and open up that steering. Or you can always just back out of the throttle a little bit. You don't want to drop it here just because it kills your lap. And not to mention, cars are going to go screaming by you because they're all running up onto the straightaway. And so spinning here usually puts you in a really compromised position. We're going to maximize our run onto the straight. Again, look at how far onto this green area that we can go. No off tracks out here unless you run completely out off the road. And then just working your way up through the gears, up through the straight. Cross the line to start the lap. We want to keep the car along the left-hand side here, hugging this concrete wall. As John says, driving like you're going to take your mirror off. You know, you want to hug it but not hit it. And then keep the car to the middle of the road so that you can swing it back to the left here. We're aiming for these cones on the left-hand side. This second to last one past the light one. We just kind of want to start straightening up after we get to that point and getting the car back over to the right-hand side of the road to set up our entry into the hairpin. Technically, that kink at the top of the straight that we just went through is turn 1. And so they call this hairpin the turn 2 complex. It's the Andretti hairpin. This white line that you can see on the right-hand side of the road is usually my braking marker. Sometimes I'll push it a little deeper than that if I want to. If the car is lighter on fuel or if the tires are feeling up to it. It's very much so kind of track state dependent. But this white line is a good kind of just safety net. As long as you're hitting that white line, you're at a good braking point for the corners. It's just before the 300 meter board, as you can see. Keeping the car nice and straight, we're going to follow this right side of the road, hard onto the brakes, and we're going to track the car into the hairpin. This hairpin is an interesting one. There's a couple different theories on the best way to take it. Some people say it's a double apex, some people say it's a single apex. Depending on the car you're driving, basically determines how you want to take the corner best. I've noticed the mid-rear cars usually like to float in a lot further and tighter, but carrying a lot more speed so that they can hook in for the second part of the corner, whereas the front engine cars like to take a wider entry. That way they're able to save their front tires just because it's such a hard braking zone. It's downhill, and as you can see, the road does kind of fall away before it starts to come back to you later in the corner. And so we get the car tucked in. We just missed this first apex here, and we let the car float out just a little bit from the inside line midway through the corner. And we're looking, there's another red curb that's going to appear on our left-hand side here, and that's what we're looking to hook the car around. And so if we hit that curb, especially in the Corvette, it really unsettles the car and compromises our exit. So we want to just get that wheel just past that curb. And as you can see, I'm hard onto the throttle here. Once I can tell I've made it past the curb, I'm fully committed. And we start opening the steering back up to allow for the rear end to walk around on me a little bit under power. Traction control stepped in and saved the day. And we're working our way up through the gears. You want to get the car over to the left-hand side of the road here for the entry into turn 3. As you can see, this straightaway isn't very straight. The road kind of curves back to the right. So you want to swing out early. That way you can kind of turn into the corner and get your braking done in a straight line. If you want to get the car lined up as best you can with this left side of the road, that way you're not doing any braking while turning. It's just going to scrub up your front tires, and it's going to end up pushing you wide on entry. So you can see we get straightened up over here, a little dab on the brakes. I got a little bit of ABS engagement, not too much. And then again, we're looking for these bright red apex curbs. We just try and float around them. Some of the other cars, the Beamer and the Porsche, especially, you can attack those curbs, kind of bounce off of them if you want to. But you'll see I just dance around it. I get a great exit here. I don't even touch the gravel. We just maximize the runoff on the curb. And then you want to keep the car pointed at the entry to this curb as best you can down this white line. All these runoffs are pretty much the standard runoffs in iRacing. You can get 2 wheels off, but if you have all 4 wheels past the white line, it's an off track. So on exit there, you can use that curb that I used. You can use a little bit of the dirt that you can see back here, but if you get all 4 wheels past this white line, it's gonna count you as an off track. On entry here, you want to kind of start to walk the car back over to the left as this curb starts, keeping your left wheels still on the curb, not on the dirt. Otherwise, it's going to compromise your traction on entry. But this just maximizes the amount of track you have available. You see a little bit of a dab on the brakes just to get the weight transferred to the front of the car. Not a lot. It's not really a braking zone, so to speak, but we're aiming to just float the car around this curb. You'll see as soon as I can tell that we're getting that line through the corner that we need, we're applying more and more throttle. And we're already at full throttle well before we're actually at the apex point. You can see a little bump in the car. I didn't hit the curb, but there is like a little divot on the inside here next to the curb that does kind of unsettle the car a little bit, but it's not too bad. It's not enough to compromise the exit. It does just put a little wobble through the car. And then we're looking for this exit here to maximize our speed down this little mini straight. It's like technically the back straightaway. Not really though. Just like a little mini through straight between turns 4 and 5. Again, this runoff is a great runoff area to utilize as long as you don't take all 4 wheels off the track. It allows you to carry a whole bunch of speed down this straight. Nice short run. You don't get to 6th gear here in the Corvette. It's another white line that we're looking for. It's in between the 200 and 300 meter board. That's usually where I'm picking up the brakes. Keep the car all the way over to the right hand side of the road here. You're going to see this is one of those turns where my line doesn't follow the traditional rubbered in racing line of the road. I take the path that water flows through the turn. We keep it over to the right hand side here. Once we get up to this next white line is usually when I'm about to start hooking the car in. And as soon as I can tell we're aiming where I want to at this apex curb, we're starting to apply a little bit more throttle and working the car around. And then we're using the throttle to help aid in the rotation around the corner. We're still flat out at this point. A lot of steering lock, but that's just to guide the nose of the car where I want it to keep it from getting overpowered by the rear end. And as you can see, we kind of start opening things up here because the car does feel like it wants to slide around on you here with all that power on through the corner. You kind of need to let it and just walk it through the corner. With your steering as best you can, open it up a little bit and let the back end kind of turn the car. And then we're just powering up through the gears on our way to one of the hairiest corners on this track in real life. In the sim, it's pretty difficult. It's like an off-camber uphill entry into an on-camber downhill to uphill exit. It's claimed a lot of cars in real life. I've seen it myself. It's tough to get right. You want to keep the car over to the right hand side here, usually utilizing this curb as best you can, not touching any of the dirt, otherwise it's going to unsettle the car and usually cause a traction loss on turn in. Pretty much just a stab on the brakes. I'm not on them for very long, it's just to get the car slowed down. And then as you can see, once I can see that curvature around the curb, and it's not just a red block to me, I'll usually start getting back on the power here and throwing the car in. You really need to commit to this corner. If you get on it too early, you're going to wash out, and it's a really hairy off track on the outside here. The road falls away, and so the back end likes to come around, and you might be able to catch it, but odds are you're going to spin it. So it's one of those corners that it benefits from a little bit of overslowing because you want to be on the power coming past the apex. You don't want to be catching the car at this point and trying to slow down more. And so as you can see, we're picking up the power here just a little bit once I can tell that the front end is going to work its way around this curb. Hard on the power, we're already at full throttle, and we're looking for this runoff area to make sure that we can maximize our exit. Again, we want to keep our wheels on this side of the white line. We want our left side tires not to go over into the danger zone. Then we start making our run up the hill. There's a lot of lap time that gets lost through that corner, just because if you're not able to carry enough speed, because this is such a steep hill that we're climbing, even though these cars have 500 plus horsepower, it's not enough to make up the difference if you're not able to carry a good amount of speed with you through turn 7. Turn 6? That's turn 6. Working our way up the hill here towards the corkscrew, the world famous corkscrew. Keep the car over to the left-hand side of the road. Once I get to this white line, there's a bunch of these painted white lines all over the track. They're beautiful. They're amazing. Use them. Once I get the car to this white line over on the left-hand side, I start working the car back over to the right, and we're trying to straighten it up for our braking into the corkscrew. We start braking at this kind of invisible marker here before we get to that white line, before the 300-meter board, and the reason for that is this crest right here. You want to get on the brakes before the car gets too light up over the hill. If you get up over this hill and then try and get on the brakes, you're never ever in a million months of Sundays going to get this thing stopped in time to make the turn. And so you want to at least come off the throttle. I'm hard on the brakes. We got some ABS engaged. But again, that's just because of where the car is on the road. It's already starting to get light because it crested a couple yards behind us when we came over the little ridge in the hill. We keep the car straight and down the right-hand side as best we can. You don't need to be all the way up on this curb. You just want to maximize the road that you have available on entry into the corkscrew. And then you start turning in for this first left. You can see this little divot in the road here next to the curb. You can get your left side tires into that groove, and it really helps the car rotate around this first left. As soon as we get through this rotation, you're going to see this gap in the trees appear ahead of us. This oak tree right here, it exists in real life. All these trees, well, most of these trees exist in real life. These three especially exist in real life, as well as this one. This one's a lot scragglier in the real world. It's basically almost dead. I think the only reason it's still alive is because the racing world needs it as a visual marker for the corner, and so it can't give up hope just yet. But this little oak tree right here is your marker for the corkscrew turn to the right. What I do is aim for this tree. Once I've gotten myself lined up with this tree, once I'm staring straight at it basically and the car is straightened up, I start committing back to the right. At this point, I'm straightening the car up, but it's straightening it up just in anticipation of turning right. And you'll see what I mean. As soon as this tree comes in line with my body, the car starts going back to the right. And you just have to trust that the road is going to be there to meet you as you come down the hill. And so you can see here, we're midline with the tree. It's basically dead center with my steering wheel. And you're going to see me start working back to the right hard. And we're coming down, and there's the road ahead of us. I'm already full throttle. Traction control is the only hope through here. The front engine cars, you cannot commit to full throttle like that. The back end is going to come around on you, so you definitely just kind of want to let the car float over that crest and down the hill, and then feather your throttle application as best you can to keep the back end stable. A lot of these mid-engine cars can just stomp the throttle over that right crest, and as long as traction control is doing its job, it'll save you. That doesn't mean you can just check out and put your foot down. You still need to pay attention. But if you get the line right, the way the road comes up to meet the car helps negate wheel spin. It's really interesting. You can see the dust and the dirt and the sparks I've kicked up here. That's just my right side tires, so it's not going to constitute as an off track or a slowdown. And it's not really enough to pick up any debris and unsettle the car, but I am maximizing my drive out of this corner. The car is going to wash out to the left a little bit. You don't want to let it go all the way out to the left because you need to keep it to the right for your entry into this left-hander. That's turn 8, and 8A is the corkscrew, and now we're coming into turn 9. Turn 7 is like a little kink leading into the corkscrew. Turn 9 here has been reshaped over the years because of MotoGP. They've removed a big old pedestrian bridge that went across the middle here. Because of the reshaping, it's a lot flowerier of a turn. You can see we keep the car out here to the right hand side and we're just kind of floating it through. We're hanging out wide as long as we can, and we're aiming for that red curb again. Once we can get it hooked around this red curb, we're hard onto the throttle and just letting the power rotate the car the rest of the way. You can use a good amount of this runoff here, but again, no all four wheels off the track. And we just want to keep it pointed back to the left so that we can get over to this curb. Onto the brakes a little bit, mainly just to get the car rotated a little and get that weight onto the front tires. And we're looking for this curb. If you hit this curb, it's really going to upset the car. It's a really aggressive front angle on this curb. You can straddle it a little bit and gain a little bit of time that way. But you do pick up a decent amount of debris on the right side tires, and it can upset the car on exit, and you can even lose it. And so you see we missed the curb here. We're already full throttle, just hooked in. A lot of these corners, if you can get into that little like natural gully that's been formed by water, the car just sits in it like an oval banking and just gets kind of carried around the corner by the road. Use a decent amount of the runoff area here, and then working our car back over to the right to set up our entry into turn 11. We're not using this white line. We're looking for the 200 meter board. Holding fourth gear, there's no point in shifting up at this point. And then hard on the brakes. Get up to about 80%. Working down through the gears, still keeping the car along the right side of the road here. And then you can see I start to work in. We're aiming for those bright red apex curbs. Trying to hook the nose around it. I think I clip a little bit of the curb on this one. You can see the car bounce a little bit. And then hard on the throttle, immediately opening up the steering. You can see this car is still rotating a little bit, but we're utilizing this green runoff area as our launch ramp onto the straight. And then working our way up through the gears and across the line. Again, we were able to pull off a 1 minute 20.071. It's a pretty good lap around here. I did crank the brake bias back to 53.5. The standard fix setup is 55.1. So we're like 1.5 percentages back on the brake bias. It helps a lot with the corner entry rotation and trail braking in this car. Play around with the brake bias. It's kind of car specific as to where your car likes the brake bias at this track. But a lot of the mid-engine cars can benefit from working the brake bias back a little bit. It does get a little hairy onto the entry of the hairpin if you've got the brake bias back this far. You just need to be cautious with your trail braking and be aware of how much speed you're carrying into the corner. Other than that, I don't have too much for you guys. Laguna Seca is an amazing track. It's one of my favorites. My home away from home. Hopefully you guys enjoy racing here. If you guys have watched this long, I appreciate it. Catch you guys on the next one. See ya.